Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse, September the 29th. You know what that means? 2 more days until Halloween season. October will be here before you know it. And then with October, as is custom, Crypto Warehouse gets a little bit spooky. And we've put out a few tweets in the last 24 hours with a list of all of the kind of spooky things that we're going to be doing in October. There are 5 Wednesdays in October. Now, normally, we're used to 4 and having 1 off. We've got the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th of October. We've booked out the 15th, 22nd, and 29th already, which gives us Wednesday and the 8th of October to do something a bit different, which we don't know what we're going to do yet. But we'll do something different. Maybe we'll give away an NFT. I don't know yet. We haven't planned that. We have asked another one of our sponsors if they want us to do a show for them. We will have to wait and see. Now, it's Monday, which means charts day. We're going to look at the DXY, total market cap. We're going to look at Bitcoin as well, because unlike many others out there on crypto Twitter that were telling you that we're going to go to zero, we did what normally happens when we go near the bull market support band. So we're going to go through that. We have some news about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about Vanderpop and alts. We're going to be talking about Leos, which is the Cardano upgrade. We're going to be talking about Aster. We're going to be talking about XBL and Plasma. And then we're going to talk about the government shutdown, or the nothing burger of the government shutdown. That is the plan for the day. It's going to be busy. Only a few X-Files because we have so many charts to look at. A few good mornings. Hidden is here. Hidden appears to have got here at like 8 in the morning from some of the messages. We've got Mags, we've got Danny, and we have KB in chat. Good morning to you all. And if you're watching on Binance Square, which I know a lot of you are, I can't keep an eye on every chat, but I know you're there. Okay, I'm reading your comments in spirit, but it's very difficult to do a live stream and read all of the comments on multiple different platforms. So today, I'm literally going to focus on the charts and the news. Now, before we begin, we should probably go and look at the crypto prices, because quite a few people were getting very upset over the weekend because Bitcoin was coming down, and I don't think there is anything to worry about. I really don't. I don't know why everybody was in such a panic. I did say, did I not, that September was either going to be nothing or we're going to be down a couple of percent, and then October we're going to be up maybe 20%. Okay, so if you're wondering where I've got the poll question from today, let's do some math. Okay, 112,000 plus 22,000 is 134,000. So my target, which is not written in stone, and it's a little bit of a finger in the air, my target is about 130,000 for October. Now that sets us up lovely for a November all-time high. And I mean all-time blow-off top all-time high. I don't mean 134. I mean maybe we pop 140, 150,000 in November. That's the target. That's the goal. We bounced again. That's the title of the show. Okay? Never doubt the bull market support band in the bull run. Okay? It might not be the most technical thing to support, but I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart and all of the lines that you have seen from me for weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't move the lines. Okay? I don't look at the charts that often because I'm not the chart person, but I draw very simple caveman lines, and you know what? It bounces off those lines. So we're going to look at that in a minute. But first, Bitcoin's coming in at 112,000. Anyone would think we were at $68,000, $69,000. $112,000. Look at Ethereum. I called 3638. What did we get to? 39. Maybe we still come back down. We've still got plenty of time. We've got another 2 weeks. October the 14th is when I think we'll take off. That's traditionally been when we take off in the past. So we've still got time. We've still got time to go to 3,600. Let's not make no bones about that. But I think 4,127 US Donald Trump dollars, I think that's a bloody good price for Ethereum right now. What else do we have? XRP, just under $3. Tickling the underbelly of $3. Good price. BNB is back over $1,000. That wasn't in anybody's playbook. Okay. My $1,500 target for BNB is looking pretty sound right now. Solana coming in back over $200, $209. Happy with that. And where is Cardano? Again, I tell you 80 cents. You think I make up that number in my head? 80.17 cents. Okay. The safe space for Cardano. Okay. 60 cents and 80 cents. But in this instance, it's 80 cents. Happy. Aren't we all? Right. Hyperliquid is starting to come back up, still under $50. I think it came down to $42, and I think I said my price that I would buy Hype at would be $44, and that's when we were at $58, $56. So we came back down below where I said if I was going to buy Hype, I would buy it. We're back at $48. Nice. Chainlink, again, $25 was a recent good price, recent high for Chainlink. $21.37 I think is decent. And there's a few sneaky stable coins coming up on the horizon. Ethena is coming up, and I think if we look down a little bit further, we're going to see USD1, which is the World Liberty Finance stablecoin, but we can't be bothered looking at that. Let's have a look at some green days. What's been popping off? I'm going to ignore MYX Finance. I've never looked at it. I don't know what it is or what it does, but it's not on my radar, so I'm ignoring that. Zcash is up. Story, again, I covered Story, I don't know, 6 months ago whenever it launched. Not really a big fan of it. Pump is up. Again, I bought that at 1.3 billion, having slated it at $1 billion. Okay? Changed my opinion on it. Sat there, slept on it a few nights, and thought, you know what? If they just keep buying that token and burning it, it's going to rip. Asta is up, but it's still under $2. People are talking about that going to all kinds of all-time highs. But listen, if you want to get into Asta, by all means, we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show. And a few good gainers today. Hype is in there, Sui is in there. A few good gainers. I don't think there's that much in the way of downside, really, apart from Plasma. There isn't really a lot to the downside. Again, Plasma is a good coin. Lots of people love this. Lots of people hate Plasma. The chain is doing numbers, and we're going to talk about that as well. And again, you've got to be careful which side of the fence you sit on with a lot of these coins, because there are coins with shiny faces. There are coins which are, you know, doing massively well. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is hype driven. What you have to do is scrape away the hype and look at the fundamentals. Are the fundamentals of hype solid? Are the fundamentals of Asta solid? Yes and yes. Are they profit-making businesses? Yes. So therefore, you know, by all means, go for it. Obviously, the token price and the business underneath, they don't have to reflect each other. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of projects out there where there's no real value in the chain. There's no real value. Everything is based on IP. Asta and Hype make money. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. So do with them as you see fit. And again, don't fall into the tribalism. Don't fall into the tribalism of believing you are one or the other. I don't care how you make your money. Make your money. If you buy Solana and Ethereum and Cardano and you make money out of all three, great. Don't become a Solana maxi. Don't become an Ethereum maxi. You make your money, and that is all that should matter. Now, let's move on. This is a little bit of a... how should we put it? Again, Not really crypto related, but it's AI related. Multiple talent agents are reportedly in talks to sign AI actress Tilly Norwood, created by AI talent studio. I'm not even going to pronounce the word. So there she is. Everyone in the chat underneath is absolutely kicking off. I just basically said she's already better than Amber Heard. This is going to happen. Again, one of the things that I kind of keep an eye on in the distance is AI. And probably within the next 12 months, you're going to start to see AI films written by AI, created by AI, and you're going to see pushback. You're going to see a lot of pushback. You're going to see Netflix and Amazon wanting to create AI movies. You're going to see actors boycotting Netflix, actors boycotting Amazon. You're going to see film studios being boycotted. It's going to be a battle. Okay, you go back a couple of years, I think it was about COVID time, and all of Hollywood came together to say you're not allowed to do this because we're going to be put out of jobs and things like that. I don't think that we're going to see the end of acting. I don't think we're going to see the end of Hollywood, but we're going to see them both living alongside each other. If I was going to see a sci-fi film, if I was going to see a horror film and it's entirely AI, great. If I want to watch Gone with the Wind, if I want to watch Mary Poppins, if I want to watch a classic Jaws film, then I'm going to want to see real people. It's just the way it is. You can have both. They can coexist. October is ETF month. Now, again, I'm going to bring this image up in a minute so you can see why October should be bullish. Many final deadlines by mid-October. October the 14th is my deadline, remember. We're expecting to see approvals on ETFs from a variety of major altcoins: Sol, XRP, Litecoin, and Doge. None of the ones with the deadline in October were issued by Fidelity or BlackRock, which are the two major players in the crypto ETF space. Regardless, it might see something to watch. Now, and bring this up because I want to basically show you the setup before lots of other things started changing, like the ETFs. I made a video about the ETFs, which went down like a lead balloon, which is great. Basically saying that the ETF scenario is dead in terms of the SEC. We saw the SEC come out and they've changed all the rules, said that ETFs don't need to be applied for if they're dealing with crypto, if they're doing this. They've reduced the time it takes from whatever it was, 270 days now down to 45 days, wherever it might be. So the playing field is changing. That's why you can't be stoic. There is a conviction in what you do, and that doesn't mean you have to be stubborn enough to not take on additional information and change your mind. Now, my play was very simple. Trump gets elected. March, Gensler is gone, which he was. I think he went in February. 6 months later takes us to September, end of September. I said that we would see the Solana and XRP ETFs going live in October. I wanted it earlier. I wanted it in June and July. That never happened. October. Now, the question is, Grayscale dumped Bitcoin. Grayscale dumped Ethereum. Is Grayscale going to dump XRP and Solana when these go live? I think they are. Why wouldn't they? They've dumped every other time. So, we could go into a scenario where everything is popping off going into November except for XRP and Solana. That's the setup based on the past. However, if we see a bull run that goes past November, and I'm open to that again, I'm open to that happening, I have to take on board new information, which is another rate cut in October. All of these ETFs go live in October. We should see a bullish wave come through from the media into retail. Everybody's bullish on crypto. The rate cuts are coming. Look at the American economy. It's doing. It was supposed to do 3.3% GDP. It's done 3.8. Maybe that's based on inflation. Who knows? But these are the ETFs that are going to go live. Now, they're not all going to go live on the same day. They're not all going to go live and be rip-roaring successes. Remember, the lower down the scale we go, the less money will flow. So you will see a lot of money going into Solana and XRP. But if you look at something, maybe a top 50 coin, Hedera, for example, we're not going to see $2 billion a week going into Hedera, but the price will move up because maybe it gets $5 million a week. Solana and XRP should rip. And I think long term, the play is to look at the proof of stake ETFs because they'll probably have no fees involved. So the Ethereums, the Solanas, they're going to have growth above and beyond because they're going to be bringing in 2.5 to 6% maybe. So the ETF narrative is going to come in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, 2 or 3 weeks' time, whatever it might be. That's the middle of October. That's when I think we're going to really take off. And that will also be a rate cut. So, Ghostbusters, we're crossing streams in the middle of October. And that's going to be the spark that hopefully pushes everything through the roof. There are always going to be black swans along the way. Maybe there's a black swan. Who knows? But if we ignore that, October is the month that we take off. Your bags have to be packed now. You've got 2 or 3 weeks left. What I don't want you to be doing is, let's say you're going to get the Orient Express and you're going to get it from Edinburgh and you're going to get it to Paris, okay? It's a beautiful trip. It goes all the way down through the Scottish mountains, through, let's not talk about London, but goes through London, comes all the way down, and then you swap and then you go over to northern France, and then you carry on down to Paris. I don't want you getting on that train at Charles de Gaulle Airport with 2 stops to go. I don't want you buying hype at $90. I don't want you buying Bitcoin at $145,000, $150,000 because I want you to buy it now. If you're going to buy coins, you buy them now. If you're looking to invest into crypto in January next year, your safest bet is Bitcoin. If the bull run is over in December or November, your safest bet is to dollar cost average into Bitcoin for the next 4 years. But the time of buying these coins is coming to an end. Okay? If we think Chainlink is going to go to $80, $90, say, and you start buying Chainlink at $75 and $65, what's your return going to be? 40%? Maybe? And that's great. Oh, you've made 40% in, let's say, a month. But then what happens at the end of the bull run when everything retraces? So let's say Chainlink goes from $90 down to $40. So let's say we don't see the massive 95% correction. Maybe we see a 60% correction. So what you're going to do with your Chainlink that you've paid $65 for, that you're now holding at $40, for what? The next 4 years? Be careful. Lots of people are saying this is the end, and I have said this is the last great bull run. And it is the last great bull run because Bitcoin is not going to do the multiples it's done in the past. So be careful. Be careful with what you do now. Okay? Your bags should be packed by the end of September. I said the same thing last September, and look what happened. We went up a long way. We've never come back to those prices. We went up a long way. Michael Saylor posts the Bitcoin tracker hinting at buying more Bitcoin. This is getting ridiculous. I mean, it's just a series of orange dots. He's buying every weekend. And again, not a bad idea. When you're sitting on $70 billion worth of Bitcoin, you're probably sitting on $20 billion worth of unrealized profit, maybe more. He's doing well. ABS, always be stacking. I'm sure there's a way he could do BTC on that, but there we go. Right then, what's coming up this week? There's a couple of things coming up to keep an eye on. But nothing absolutely major, just important. So today we've got Christopher Waller, we have Beth talking, we have home sales, we've then got another Fed, Raphael speaking. So we've got a couple of Fed chats today. Tuesday, another Fed chat. Then we have PMI. it's an indicator. Job openings, another indicator. Then we have another president speaking. Moving further on to Wednesday, and then we have the construction spending. Again, more PMI, car sales. I mean, jobless claims. We can keep going. Friday, employment again. I mean, what are we really expecting out of this week? We're expecting the data to set up another rate cut in October, which I think is pretty much on the cards, isn't it? So nothing, I would say, to worry about. Pretty much. I think we're good. Right, let's move on. I should have got a backlit keyboard because with this light, the keyboard is just a black abyss beneath me. Right, let's move on. How are we doing? Let's have a look. This is the DXY. Invalid symbol. Have I copied it wrong? I don't think so. Okay, hang on. Try again. So again, we always start with this one simply because I think it's the first one on the list. We probably have found the bottom. We've been in this range July, August and September. You can see what I'm expecting to happen, and that is that we're going to break. Now, let me zoom in. We're going to talk about the bull market support band in a minute. Look at... Let me remove my... no, leave my red arrow there. I don't want people accusing me of changing things. But look at what's happened. We fell down on Trump. Trump basically caused this devaluation of the dollar. And then the dollar has repeatedly struggled to break this moving average, to break the bull market support band. And at some point it will break. And that's what my red line indicates there. At some point this is going to break to the upside. When potentially America has a stronger outlook. So this is what I see happening. Now this is the first time since the end of July that we've actually broken into the bull market support band, broken into this average. And we got halfway up, but we've been rejected again. And again, we found a really good level of support here. But we're kind of coming to the point where we're rattling around. We don't have a lot of wiggle room. Back here, we had a lot of wiggle room. So I think something's going to give. I think we either invalidate what I'm saying and we break to the downside. Entirely possible. Or there is a China-America trade deal and we break to the upside. But we're not going to stay in here forever. You know, we're not going to stay at this. If you go back over time and you look at, say, this period here where, again, we were rattling around. What did we do? We broke to the upside. We've come down here. We're rattling around. I just think we're going to break to the upside. The dollar is a very strong currency, and I know Trump doesn't want that because he wants to increase exports. And to increase exports, you have to make the dollar cheaper. That will in turn push the price of Bitcoin up. I know, but I think we're going to break to the upside. But maybe not this week, maybe not next week, maybe all my lines are wrong. Trading and charts is not necessarily about knowing the direction, but the timing of the direction as well. You can be out by a week. You can say Bitcoin's going to 134,000 in October, like I said, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it goes in the second week of November, and maybe I'm wrong. At the start of this year, I said we were going to dump or pump. I can't remember which one I said. And I was out by exactly 14 days. These things happen. Now, this looks like I have absolutely destroyed this chart with lines. So let's just clear this up a little bit. This is the bull market. This is not the bull market support. Sorry, this is Bitcoin dominance. I said I think we've bottomed, and I said I think we're going to come up, and that is my red line here. Okay, this is what I think is going to happen. Now we're at 58.6%. I'm not, and I've said this last week, probably said it the week before as well, I don't think we're going to go back to, you know what, why is my line, why have I made that so, there we go. I think we're going to do this, okay? I think we're going to come up. The line on here is where I think we'll come up to, which is about 61.5%. Again, said this last week. The way I think it's going to happen now, I think Bitcoin is going to pump. Not today, but I think it's going to pump in 2 weeks' time. And then I think it's going to break back towards the upside. 118 is the next big level to break. Again, we're only at 112,000 today. But I think we've got to get to 118,000, the top of my range, and then we go higher. Now, if Ethereum sidles down a little bit, so let's say Ethereum breaks below 4,000 again, but Bitcoin moves in the opposite direction and starts to go up, then Bitcoin dominance is going to do this, because Ethereum is the second biggest cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's going to break to the upside. Bitcoin dominance will then break to the upside. And then maybe we just do something like this. Maybe we do that. Maybe we get rejected some place around here and then we come down a little bit. But again, it's very hard. It's very hard to know when we have a different game. We have different players now in the game, which are the ETFs. Maybe the October launch of all of these ETFs is going to pump so many coins that it just forces the Bitcoin dominance down. Maybe Solana and XRP go on life-changing pumps. Maybe Cardano goes above $1.50 to $2, whatever it might be. Maybe that happens simultaneously and Bitcoin dominance breaks down towards 54, 53%, something like that. But again, I think we are forming a nice little upward momentum on Bitcoin dominance. And again, something else to keep an eye on, which we talked about last week. Wait for my lines to load. And that is, there we go. We have this lovely little trend line on the total market cap. So this is everything combined. 3.82 trillion is the total size of crypto. We talked last week about this line here being 4 trillion. Okay, 4 trillion, that's the line we have to break. And we are, what are we, 6% from that? 6%. We've been rejected off here. We couldn't break through here. We've bounced back up. We got rejected again. This time we broke down back to this line down here that we've always had support at, which is 3.64 trillion. And now we're moving back to the trend line. We're now back at that trend line. But what's important that couples up with this is the Bitcoin chart. Now, I was going to leave the Bitcoin chart until after we spoke about what Cathie Wood says. But you know what? We're going to look at it now. Because, again, there's some important things to look at. I said a while ago... What time frame is this daily? Come on. There we go. Where have my lines gone? This can't be the right chart. This is Ethereum. I'm looking at the wrong thing. This is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Right. Let me bring up the Bitcoin chart. This is the one. We haven't looked at Ethereum Bitcoin in a while, but there are too many charts to bring up at the start of a Monday show. There's only so much we can do. Here we go. This is the Bitcoin chart. Right. Now, this arrow here points to where we bounced off the bull market support band. And I said, is that the low? We came down here, and if you look at the two lines I have drawn on here, these are almost, well, okay, the bull market support band has updated since I drew it last week, but we have to look back. We bounced off the bottom of the bull market support band. We have then come back up, and we have bounced back off the bottom of the top of the bull market support band. So we have bounced like that. Okay, I'm happy with this. Okay, I was talking to the Oracle about this, and when we were down here, I said my targets for Bitcoin, I said 111,000, and then I said 113,000. Okay, and I meant 111,800, which is that line there, which is the bottom of the bull market support band as it was. So the second line that we need to break up past is this one here, which is about 114,000. We're not near there just yet, but we are back over 112. Now, there's absolutely nothing stopping Bitcoin having one last capitulation down to this level here before October. Okay? But we spent 4 wicks there and 4 wicks there. And then we came up, found support on our trend line, and then went higher. We've come up. Are we going to find support at this line and then go higher? Maybe. But bouncing off the bull market support band, whether at the bottom or the top, is still a positive thing. It's showing that's where the bulls are going to fight. That's where they're going to try and hold the line. So for me, I am still not the slightest bit worried, because this line here, this is takeoff. Okay, how we taxi to take off is not my concern. I should probably do that, really, shouldn't I? If we do this, fine. If we do this, fine. I don't care what happens in the next two to 3 weeks. The big move that's coming next is up. And I'm more confident of that as the time goes by. And if you want to go back and look at one of the videos that I made about this, I made a video called Summer Lulling. Okay? Forgive me, I'm old, but what a title. Now, just bear in mind, this is the beginning of July. This is the end of summer. Can you tell me if that's summer lulling? Because that looks like summer lulling to me. If we go back to last summer, guess what? We did exactly the same thing. It's boring. Yes, we have a little bit up. Yes, we have a little bit down. Sometimes we break out of the trend to the up and the downside. I don't care. The point of the matter is, we don't do anything in summer. The action comes in October. And we're 2 weeks away. Hold on to your hats, because I think we are going to be a lot happier in a month's time than we are today. Good morning, Bullish Bull. Do I think altcoins have bottomed? Do I think altcoins have bottomed? Not necessarily. If Bitcoin absolutely goes on a tear, the alts will probably suffer. If Bitcoin dumps in the next week, so let's say Bitcoin comes down to 104, that fabled 104,000 that I talk about. Bitcoin drops to 104, even 100,000, the alts are going to get wrecked. But it's still, for me, I would be spending in the next 2 weeks looking to buy alts. I told you a couple of weeks ago I was buying World Liberty Financials and I was buying Pump. I've bought twice or 3 times the amount of World Liberty Financial than I have of Pump, because I'm not going to hold Pump very long. But I am going to hold World Liberty Financials. I think they've just released their burn. They've just burnt so many millions of tokens. Anything that's got a burn mechanism and a massive income stream is going to do well from here on out. So I don't think the alts have necessarily bottomed. I don't believe we're going to hit 70% on Bitcoin dominance on Bitcoin either. I mean, if Bitcoin goes to $180,000, fine, then yes, we will. And that's if Ethereum doesn't move. So if we have an absolute scorching move on Bitcoin, let's say China announces that it's about to buy $100 billion worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin absolutely skyrockets, then of course Bitcoin dominance is going to go up. But the percentage chance of that happening is quite low. The percentage chance of Bitcoin dominance for me going to 70% is quite low, because I think that's quite high for where we are. We could go to 65, 66, but I don't see it. Where do we get that from? Where do we get the move? Where do we get the money from that's going to rip Bitcoin so far ahead of the market? The strategic Bitcoin reserve, that's possibly one idea. Nation states announcing that they're going to buy Bitcoin, that's another idea. An absolute capitulation of Ethereum, that's another idea. The ETFs all going live and every one of them dumping Solana and XRP and pulling Ethereum down, maybe. I don't see 70%, but I do see alts having more corrections, because it's not alt season. It's not alt season. Alt season happens when Bitcoin has finished eating, and then alts come along and tuck in. So for me, where are we? We are back where we've spent the majority of our time, in this channel, in this range. And again, was talking to Oracle about this. Look at every time we've got to the top of our range, what have we done? We have come down. And then what happens after we come down? We go up. So it's not rocket science at all. And this might be an imaginary channel that only exists in my head. But it's pretty funny how it ties up so well with the bottom and the top of the range that Bitcoin has been in for 3 months. I might have made it up back here, but it stayed pretty consistent all the way along. And, like I said, a summer lull does not mean the price of Bitcoin does this. It means the price of Bitcoin does this. The same way we did it last year. So, if Bitcoin in the next few days does that and goes to 124,000 and nothing else moves, then Bitcoin dominance is going to move up. But 70%, when did he say that? That's a lot. That's pretty. That's high. Now then, we're going to talk about Cathie Wood, because what she says is absolutely spot on. And I think I've said this before. I'm going to reiterate it. If I had to put my entire net worth on one individual, it would be Cathie Wood. I wouldn't put it on Saylor. I wouldn't put it on Tom Lee. I wouldn't put it on Anatoly and Solana, even though he's not technically an investment house, but you know what I mean. I wouldn't put it on one chain or one chain maxi. And Cathie Wood, everything that she says is pretty spot on, apart from some of her ridiculous Bitcoin targets of 2.3 million. But she's going to say that. ARK Invests, Cathie Wood says Bitcoin will always lead the crypto market. 100% agree. I've been saying this for absolutely years. Everybody who talks about the flippening was talking about Ethereum flipping the market cap of Bitcoin. Ain't going to happen. Never going to happen. The more likelihood is that XRP flips Ethereum. That's the more likelihood. Solana, no, isn't going to flip Ethereum. So if there's a flippening, it's XRP over Ethereum. I don't see that happening either. I don't know what's going on TikTok, but I've never read so much garbage in all my life. I've never listened to so much garbage in all my life. If you want to know what I do late at night when I'm going to sleep to dream of Bitcoin, I go on TikTok and I literally type the word idiot, scam, fraud under all of the videos, because in my own little way that makes me feel better. Okay, XRP is not going to $1,000. It's not going to $100. It's not going to $20. Okay, get those ideas out of your head. If you ask Cathie Wood, she'd probably give you a pretty accurate target, but she's absolutely right. And there she is, the lovely Cathie Wood. So she once again positioned Bitcoin as the undisputed leader of the digital asset space, making the case that no rival cryptocurrency will surpass it. She's right, absolutely. Look at the top assets in the world by market cap. What's number one? Gold. What has probably been number one for the last 200 or 300 years? Gold. What is likely to never be topped? Gold. What is likely to be second? Bitcoin. At some point, maybe in the digital future, where we've been hit by an asteroid and aliens have landed and taken away Donald Trump for recycling, maybe Bitcoin overtakes gold. But gold is what, 24 trillion? Bitcoin is 2.1 trillion. By the time Bitcoin gets to 24 trillion, gold is likely to be at maybe 30 trillion. So even a 10x in Bitcoin doesn't take it past gold. And you have to admit, gold is the number one asset in the world. It's the flight to safety, the store of value, and that's what Bitcoin is to most people. Even though the Bitcoin maxis will tell you that you have to use it like a currency, it's not how people see it. People buy Bitcoin because it goes up in value. They don't buy Bitcoin to go and buy a coffee in Colombia. Maybe one day, I'll go to Colombia and I'll, instead of buying Colombian pesos, I'll bring $200 worth of Bitcoin. And I will buy things in Bitcoin, yes. But my net worth will be kept under lock and key somewhere else. So yes, maybe I will use Bitcoin because it's probably going to be the most widely accepted cryptocurrency in the next 5 to 10 years. But it's not going to be my main use of Bitcoin. She dismissed the idea of a crowded market filled with the numerous dominant tokens. Instead, she argued that Bitcoin's design ensures that its lasting superiority, describing it as a rules-based system rooted in the quantity theory of money. With the supply capped at 21 million coins and nearly all already mined, she believes this scarcity cements the status as a monetary network unlike any other. She's absolutely right. She's absolutely spot on. There's no more to say about that. She's absolutely right. If you were to say to me, what do I put all of my money into for the next 20 years? Let's say you're 20 years of age and you want to retire at 40. Where do you put your net worth? In crypto. You put it in Bitcoin. You put 90% of your net worth in Bitcoin. And then maybe you put the other 10% into some projects that you like. But, and I've made video upon video upon video. I've made some OG videos about this actually, which are pretty good, where I talk about dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin for the next 20 years. At some point in that 20-year period, you're going to be buying 10 Satoshis, 5 Satoshis. And at the minute, you might get 1,000 Satoshis, 500 Satoshis for what you're putting in. Look back to when you first bought Bitcoin. How much did you buy? $50. And what was the price of Bitcoin? $50,000, say. Look at today, that $50 will buy you half the Satoshis that you got when you first bought Bitcoin. When Bitcoin is at $300,000, which may be 4 years from now, when Bitcoin's at $300,000, you'll look back at the Tariqs of this world, the KBs of this world, the bullish bulls of this world, and you'll say, he was buying Bitcoin at $50,000. I tell you, I was buying Bitcoin at $3,000. But the same way you're thinking about that now, people will be thinking about when you first bought your Bitcoin. If you've been watching us since the beginning, you've been buying Bitcoin since $18,000 and $19,000. That's when you first bought Bitcoin. That is a 6x in profit between then and now, roughly. You go forward in time. I think the rule is, if you've held Bitcoin for more than 4 years, you're in profit. Something like that. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's 3.5 years. That's the way you've got to look at it. Buy today at whatever price Bitcoin is. Buy next week at whatever price Bitcoin is. You buy every week $5, $1, $10. And over a very long period of time, 10, 20 years, you will end up making an absolute fortune. And I can't say that about every other cryptocurrency because Bitcoin is the alpha and the omega. It is Bitcoin. It is crypto. Everything else is a project. Everything else is a computer program, smart contracts, DeFi. Everything else is just following in the wake of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is true pure, uncensorable money. Everything else is a play. Ethereum is a play. Solana is a play. They're all plays, but Bitcoin isn't. It's the only asset to ever go above $1 trillion in crypto. Only one, which is Bitcoin. So bear that in mind when people are telling you to buy Ring-like coin. I don't know. Michael Vanderpop reveals which altcoins he's buying and selling now. Now, Vanderpop, I don't know if you remember him, he sold out of Bitcoin months ago, and everybody called him names. And I don't know what he bought into. I think he bought into Ethereum. And in hindsight, he was, of course, right, because he bought Ethereum, which has now done probably a 3x since he sold his Bitcoin. So he's probably in the coin, as a Londoner would say. And, you know, he pops up from time to time. I like to cover him. I've never actually seen him before. That's what he looks like. Would you know that? So, the decision comes as he prepares for 6 weeks of international travel, including stops at Token 2049 in Singapore. He's in London and New York. Vanderpop noted while several large cap positions, including OP, Say, Celestia, and Bitenza, remain in his portfolio, their performance has lagged the broader market. TIA, in particular, fell to new cycle lows. Now, I didn't know he held these coins. I would have told him not to buy Say, not to buy Celestia, not to buy Tau. Optimism's the only one on there that I think's got a future because everybody uses the OP stack to make their layer 2s on Ethereum. So, again, even the mighty Michael Vanderpop can buy things which might not do too well. So he is adding Eigenlayer, which I think is not a bad shout. He has also sold his RPL tokens, and he has bought W and Res. Smaller coins, clearly. Small caps driving momentum. Vanderpop emphasized that small cap tokens have been the real drivers of his portfolio in recent weeks, holding Woo, W, Res, Peak, and Avo are showing signs of strength, with several preparing to break above critical technical levels. He also disclosed taking partial profits on Avo. Good. Now, what I would say to this is, this man is a professional. And this man, whether you agree with him or not, has made a lot of money out of what he is doing. And he has his conviction in the way his portfolio is put together. If you watch us, we are nothing like him. We are Bitcoin heavy and Ethereum. We tell you to go after the top 10 coins. They're solid. There are many people, Alex Becker was talking about this last night as well, I saw one of his tweets. If you're new to crypto, you get top 20 coins. This channel is aimed at keeping crypto simple, making crypto simple. Our job is to show you how to not lose money. That's our motto, okay? We're not here to make you rich, we're here to stop you from becoming poor. And that is at the very core of everything we do. His portfolio is not something we would ever recommend to people that are new to crypto. And that's what we always adhere to, or try to adhere to. So whereas we like to tell you about World Liberty Financial, or we tell you about NEAR, or we tell you about, what other coins have we talked about recently? I bought a position in Sonic. We tell you what we do, but they are 0.1%, 0.5% of our portfolio. We've done portfolio videos. 65% of our money is in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then we've got Solana, XRP, ADA making up another big chunk. And then everything else underneath is play money. 5% of our portfolio, 10% of our portfolio, wherever it might be. So we're never going to recommend what he would recommend, but you have to understand that we don't want you to lose your money. I want to sleep at night. And how do I sleep at night? I sleep at night knowing that if I ask you, or if you ask me, what should I buy? I know the safest bet for the long term is Bitcoin. Whereas what he has done is rotated out of Bitcoin into Ethereum and probably rotated out of Ethereum into his alts. That's what he's done. And that is absolutely fine. Okay, if I gave you a piece of fish and I said cook it, I guarantee each one of you would have a different way to cook that fish. But at the end of the day, you'd have, hopefully, something edible. And that's what your portfolio is. Never compare your portfolio to anybody else. Your portfolio, if you've been in crypto long enough, you should understand what kind of portfolio you've got, what kind of, whether it's conservative, balanced, aggressive, you should understand that about yourself. If you've got a family and young kids, you should have a conservative portfolio. If you're in your late teens, if you're in your early 20s, you live at home, you've got no overheads, you've got no dependents, then fine. Degen all you want into anything that comes out of pump.fun. Okay? Make your mistakes and learn. Okay? Not every portfolio should be the same. Cardano news, Leos CIP 164 rolls out, brings 55x throughput boost. Again, I'm never going to back against Cardano. People call it zombie, people call it X, people call it Y. Charles Hoskinson is sitting on a panel creating the direction of crypto. Now, yes, he is not Cardano, but Cardano is never going to die as long as Charles is involved. They are working on the Bitcoin solution, the Pandora's box, tapping into Bitcoin liquidity. They're up against Zeus, they're up against Babylon, they're up against Core, they're up against, who else are they up against? The other Ethereum layer 2s trying to do the same thing. It's competition, but Cardano has a place. The one thing to ask yourself is, how many banks are there in the world? How many banks are there in America? How many ETF providers have we got? We've got the big 11. So if we've got room for 11 ETF providers, if we've got room for 50 banks worth 10 billion each, why haven't we got enough room for 8 to 10 to 12 decent blockchains? Of course we have. Each has their own niche or kink, however you want to look at it. Cardano will have its own kink. These upgrades are just preparing it for the next stage. And as Charles talks about, I'm not going to go through this, it's quite long-winded. Basically, Ethereum has a roadmap. Now it has a roadmap. I was criticizing them earlier this year. They've got no roadmap. Now they have a roadmap. Cardano's had a roadmap for the last 4 or 5 years. Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, all got roadmaps. Okay? And they stick to them, and they work, and they are really, really good at what they do. Right, I'm going to move on because I think we're going to run out of time. Jup. Okay. Again, I'm going to die on this hill of dupe. I talk a lot about the disparity between token and project. And I talk a lot about, you can look at Aster, which has been here 5 minutes, and you can say it's going to go to $20 based on speculation. Dupe is not based on speculation. Dupe is based on the fact it is a profit-making business. It's at 45 cents now. It should be over $1. This year's not been a good year for Dupe. Not in terms of development, but in terms of optics. It was closely associated with Meteora because Meow and the guy from Meteora, pretty good friends. And of course, Meteora was associated with, I don't know if it was Trump or if it was Libra, one of those coins. And of course, it dumped the market. And I said at the time, I don't want to be, or not me personally, but if I was Solana, I wouldn't want to be saying I was Solana right now. We need to let the dust settle. So it's not had a good time. They are buying back with their fees an absolute bucket load of dupe. There's going to be an airdrop in the next week from dupe, which is going to be locked up again. And I think you're making about 20% APR by locking up your dupe. It's in the same bracket as all of the other big dexes. The Uniswaps, Dupes, Aerodrome, you could even put WolfSwap in there. They're all profit-making businesses. I back profit-making businesses. I try to. And I don't see where Dupe doesn't go any higher. $2.50, $5. Okay? Maybe not $5 this cycle, but that was my target. Maybe $2.50. That's a 5x from where we are now. Maybe that's conservative. Maybe we go higher. But I don't think I talk about tokens that I'm going to sell now and buy back. And Dupe will be a token that I sell and then buy back. That's how I would look at it. The same with Solana. The same with Ethereum. I unlocked all of my Ethereum, and I told you at the time, I unlocked all of my Ethereum in the first part of this year because I knew the bull run was coming. And now there is a 37-day unlock period for Ethereum. And that is a variable. So I unlocked all of my Ethereum at the start of this year. Dupe is 28 days, set in stone. No variable countdown. When we get to the second week of October, and I've had my second airdrop or my third airdrop of the year, I am going to unlock my Dupe. And I'm going to sit on it. I have liquid Solana, liquid Ethereum, Dupe, ADA is a 3-day unlock. Everything is ready for me to sell except Bitcoin. And I'm going to keep my Bitcoin under lock and key. So for me, the worst case scenario is $2 for Dupe. There's no reason. Again, many of the coins that I like over there, I like Zeus. I like, what's that other coin that they've got? I like Orca. I like Ray. I like them. But Dupe is the number one for me. CZ clarifies role with Asta after ex-Binance employees join the DEX project. There he is, Mr. CZ. CZ confirmed that several former Binance employees are now part of the Asta team, that YZI Labs holds a minority stake in the project. Community chatter intensified after claims surfaced that CZ had described himself as part of the Asta's core group during a Spaces discussion. He moved quickly to set the record straight, not on the team, just an advisor. Come on, CZ. Don't play that game. CZ acknowledged that Asta's business overlaps with Binance's offerings, but argued that the ecosystem benefits remain aligned. Although Asta competes with Binance, it ultimately benefits BNB, pointing to the token's expanding role in decentralized finance. What you're seeing now is you are seeing a crossover of sexes into dexes and dexes becoming a little bit like sexes. And what do I mean by that? And I've got to be very careful with the words I use because we stream on Binance. Let's take Binance. Binance has launched Binance Alpha. Not a whole listing on Binance, but Binance Alpha. And if the volume is there and the token does well, it gets migrated over to Binance. We can look at Coinbase and Base, and we can look at the fact that they're going to add Web3 access to DEXs through their website. We can look at another exchange, which I'm not going to mention the name of. They've already got that in place. We can look at another exchange that has its Web3 wallets in place where you can go and trade tokens. So what you're seeing is these centralized exchanges that are not scared but fed up of being called crap for listing tokens that dump 90%. And what they're doing is they're saying, okay, every token is available to everybody through this mechanism. When that token graduates, we will list it. But if you want it today, it's there. And you then go to Binance Alpha and you go and buy a token, and they list quite a lot on there, and you buy those tokens. Mu is on Binance Alpha. Shouldn't be, should be on Binance. But there you go. Syrup was on Binance Alpha for about a week before it got listed on Binance. So I agree with what CZ is saying, but I'll go back to the point that you will be able to have in 4 or 5 years' time 100 different exchanges. And some of them, like Binance, will remain in the top 5. Others will be small, localized ones. You might have spin-offs. So, for example, there might be a Binance Vietnam that might call itself BV. There might be a Coinbase Argentina which calls itself C-Base or A-Base or something like that. So you're gonna see a lot of this happen. Go look at what happened with oil. Okay, Standard Oil at one point had 97% of the world's oil production. Standard Oil. Go and look it up. It's a great book. I think it's called The Seven Sisters. And in that book, they broke it up. They broke it into parts because it was too powerful. And what they did was they made the owners very, very rich, because instead of having one company worth X, he had shares in 6 or 7 companies worth X times 10. And what you're likely to see with Binance in probably the next 3 or 4 years is you'll see Binance US, Binance South America. You might see Binance Europe, Binance Asia, whatever. And then over time, they might change the names. And that's what's going to happen, because we're going to expand. And when we expand, it makes more space. And when it makes more space and creates that vacuum, more things can grow, such as Aster. And the second thing I'll point out about this before we move on is there is plenty of space for Aster to coexist with Hype. It is not one or the other. And I would hedge my bets. If I had $1,000 today that I didn't care about, I'd put $500 into Aster and $500 into Hype. And that's all I would think about it. I wouldn't give it a second thought basing it on market cap or basing it on potential. I'd say $500 in each, because we know Aster's going to be a success and we know Hype's going to be a success. Maybe they're not going to be a success in 20 years' time, but in the next 3 or 4 years they will be. And then maybe some DEXs get bought out by Sexes. Maybe Binance buys Aster. Maybe, Hype gets bought out by somebody. It's all possibilities. But we're in an expanding market. And in an expanding market, things are tried and things will fail. We're going to see blockchains fail. I've said that to you before as well. Blockchains are going to fail. There is a rumor that Blast is going to shut down. Maybe it does. It wouldn't surprise me if the likes of Celestia goes, a few other chains go in the near future. We don't know for certain. Good morning. ICAI. I hope you're well. Right, let's move on. What are we? Plasma XPL rockets 87% to all-time highs. Why this whale-backed rally is far from over. So, if you don't know, I've covered this in a couple of streams on Binance Square and also on YouTube. Okay, it's going to do that to me, is it? Is it going to be one of them? Okay, let's move on. Right, I'll close this down and I'll talk about it separately. I hate it when browsers fail. What can you do? Right, let's get rid of that. And let me come back over here, tell you about that. This will be the last thing. We don't need to talk about the other bit of news today. Plasma, I've mentioned it now probably 3 times in the last 5 streams. Give me 1 second while I... There we go. Okay, I'm back. So Plasma is a layer 2. It isn't owned by Tether, but Tether are involved. Paolo is involved. There are many people involved. It is a stablecoin layer 2, stablecoin blockchain. It has its own token, which is XPL. Yes. It's going to process trillions of dollars through that blockchain. It's already doing big numbers. And I don't know what the token is going to do, XPL. It's only been out a week. But for me, Plasma has been one of the biggest successful launches in recent times of anything. So keep an eye on Plasma. Go and have a look at it. Make up your own mind. The XPL token is on Binance as well, so you can go and check out XPL on Binance. Check out Plasma. There are yield opportunities over there. Maple Finance is over there with its yield-bearing dollar asset. Syrup USDT is over there. So just go and check out Plasma. I think it's going to do really, really well. And it's going to do really, really well because it's a simple solution. It's a stablecoin blockchain. It's for people to send transactions from A to B without converting it into Bitcoin, without converting it into XRP, whatever it might be. You send $100,000 from A, it gets to B, and it costs you $1, 50 cents, whatever it might be. So go and check out Plasma. I think it's a big one. Now, it is 12:05, so I have overrun a little bit. I am not streaming tomorrow. I have an appointment with the eye doctor to hopefully get an appointment for an operation to get my eyes fixed. So I'm not streaming tomorrow, and if I do, which is very unlikely, it will be late in the afternoon. The appointment's at 9:30, the stream is at 11, but they put drops in your eyes and you can't see for a few hours afterwards, so I'm likely to just come home and sit in a darkened room. So I won't be streaming tomorrow. Wednesday night we'll probably stream, but we won't be doing a quiz, I don't think. Thursday I will probably stream, and Friday I'll probably stream. So there'll be plenty of me about this week, but not tomorrow. I have an appointment. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Drop Dead. Thank you, Kishan, KB, Bullish Bull, Hidden. Everybody else is in here. Probably missed a lot of people out. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all Wednesday. Take care.